I think the theme of this video is going to be the word delay, because so many frustrating obstacles and problems are just presenting themselves right now in a way that's causing a lot of delay. So the situation is, and I don't even know where to begin with this video because there's just so much to talk about. I actually started recording a video many days ago in the middle of the week. I'm recording this on Saturday, coming up for afternoon. I recorded a video on the Wednesday, so going back to the middle of the week. However, I encountered camera problems. My camera died and I had to get rid of it, or at least retire it, and I had to buy a new camera. I had to wait for the new camera to arrive. I've got new lenses as well, and ND filters and batteries, and all this has been expense that I really didn't need right now, and it's just been a lot of problems and delays and waiting for things to come. But everything's now arrived and I can now make this update video. I'm not going to go to the beach anymore because it's too windy today. It's howling a gale. It was a storm last night. So if I was to try and go outside, then all you'd hear would be, you know, that noise that it makes on the microphone. So yeah, a lot of delays and a lot of problems. And every time it seems like a door's opening up or there's a pathway ahead, it just seems like obstacles come along and I just get sideswiped and I can't seem to move forward in the way that I would like. And that kind of feeds in to the real story that I'd like to tell, the story that I was going to tell in the middle of the week at the beach, because I've got some quite big news, and there's some good news, but again, there's a delay attached to it, there's a problem attached to it. I'll stop being cryptic. The good news is that I've got a house. I finally got a house, but the bad news, or the catch, or the delay that's attached to it is that I can't move into that house until the 13th of May. So I can't move into it for another 4 months, 5 months, something like that. And to tell the story, I'm going to take you back to the beginning of the year. I'm going to warn you going in, this is quite a long, involved and detailed and quite boring story as well, because I've kind of gone over in my mind all the things that I need to talk about, and it's quite a boring story, I'm not going to lie to you. But in the interest of full transparency and just letting you in and knowing what's been happening over the past few weeks, I'm just going to go into every detail. So sit back, buckle up, and we're going to get started. I'm going to take you back to the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, I was looking at the listings again. It was just one idle afternoon, and I decided to look and see if there was anything that I missed or anything that I dismissed a little too readily the first time around. And there was. There was a house that I dismissed a little too readily the first time round, and the reason that I had was because it was way too expensive. £20,000 more expensive than what my budget was, so I just dismissed it and thought there's no point in even looking at that house. However, as I looked at it in more detail, I realised there was quite a lot of things that were needing doing in that house. It was a guy that had died and he hadn't invested in his property for 20 or 30 years. It needed a big refurb from top to bottom, and as well as that, it had some quite essential issues as well that needed fixing. It needed electrical work. Some of the rough casting was falling off the side of the house. It had some holes in the back. There was a dormer window issue. There was a leak above the garage. So there's some quite significant issues. And so I thought to myself, I wonder if the family, the kids, the inheritors of this man's estate would be willing to accept a little bit less than what they've put on the ticket. So I went to see it. I did a viewing just in case they would be open to an offer. And sure enough, a lot of the house was needing a lot of work. But what I saw and what made my eyes lit up in absolute delight was it had a double garage. And this double garage was perfect. It was such a good space. I was already kind of imagining where everything would go. And as soon as I saw it, I just got caught up in this idea of having this double garage conversion. And I just kind of thought, it doesn't matter what the rest of the house is like. If I can just get this double garage and get a studio set up in it, you know, I'll take care of the rest, you know, at a later date. But as long as I've got this garage, that's going to be everything. Oops, sorry. I just apologized to my thing. Can't even remember the name of it. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So I saw the double garage, loved it, and I decided I would go and make an offer. And I was going to offer $15,000 below what they were asking, but $5,000 above my own budget. So I was really kind of stretching myself, but it was a bit below what they were asking. I thought that was quite a good compromise. However, they came back quite quickly and then just said no. They weren't willing to accept anything They said they were hoping for something closer to what was on the ticket. Now, I was still full of this idea of the double garage, so I just immediately went back and said, would you accept 10,000 more? Now, that would have put me 15,000 above my own budget. It was still 5,000 below what they were wanting, but it was 15,000 above what I was really hoping to spend. So I was really overstretching myself, if I'm to be completely honest, at that price point. But I was just so filled with this double garage and I just wanted it so badly. So I put in that offer and they got back to me and they said that they wanted to take 24 hours to think about it. I don't know how many kids were involved, how many inheritors of the estate there were, but they wanted 24 hours to discuss it amongst themselves, and then they get back to me the next day. So they did. They went away and they discussed it, and they came back the next day and they said yes, that they were willing to accept that improved offer. However, in that 24-hour period where they were deliberating and thinking about it, that had given me some time to think about it as well. It had given me some time to cool off a little bit and to realize that actually it didn't make financial sense to go for that house. I was already overstretching myself to go to their price point, and then even once I had it, I would need to invest all of this money to get it back up to speed and to fix things, and then to convert the garage as well. And I just thought, that's really money that I don't have, and it would just become a money pit, and I'd be working on it for years and years and years, and it just didn't make financial sense at that price point. So this really weird situation emerged where they were offering me the house, but then I retracted and pulled away. And I felt quite bad about it because clearly the house meant a lot to them and they thought long and hard as to whether I should get it. And then after offering it to me, I kind of retracted and pulled back. So I felt bad for them and I made my apologies, but it just didn't make sense at that price point. Now, one of the things that really played into that decision was that the very day when they were kind of deliberating and having their family conference, and when I was thinking about it too, I was back on the listings and a house came on that very day. We'll call this house B and we'll call the first house House A. House B came on the market. Now, House B was a lot younger, or newer, should I say. It was a lot newer house. I'm not thinking right today, sorry. It was a lot newer house. It was only built in 2013. So it's less than 10 years old. It was newer, it was fresher, it was clean, it was modern, it'd been kept up to date. And the key thing about it was that it had a converted garage space already done. Now, it was only a single garage as opposed to a double garage as in House A, but it had already been converted and the space was indeed big enough. They turned it into what they called a family room. And as soon as I saw this, I thought it doesn't make sense. It was £21,000 less than House A. I can't remember if I said that already, but it was £21,000 less than House A. And I just thought, okay, so you can pay £21,000 more and get this older house, which is kind of dilapidated and run down and which needs a garage conversion, or you can spend £21,000 less and get this new, fresh, clean, modern house, which already has its garage conversion already done. It just doesn't make sense to go for House A anymore. So that's one of the reasons that I kind of dismissed it and I pushed it out of the way. And from then on, all of my attention was focused on House B. I went to do a viewing at House B. Loved it, loved everything about it. There was just one thing that was kind of bothering me, that was kind of playing on my mind, and that was that it had a lack of natural light. Now, that's quite a big thing for me. I always feel happier and more content, more motivated, more energized, more creative if I have natural light. And the idea of going into a cave basically didn't really appeal to me. But that was the only thing, because in every other respect, it was perfect. I went to do my viewing at 1 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. It was a clear blue sky day and not a lot of light was getting in. And that was the only thing that was really holding me back. And I was really deliberating and thinking about this hard. And so what I decided to do was the next day I put in a note of interest. Now, I don't know how it works in other parts of the world, but a note of interest essentially says that I want to be kept informed of any movement that happens on that property in the future. It basically says that I'm not ready to put in an offer, but I am interested, so I just want to be kept up to date with any movement that happens on that property. So if someone puts in an offer, I want to be notified so that I can counteroffer and get involved. Or if anyone else notes interest, I want to be kept informed so I know how the competition's shaping up. It's that kind of thing. So I put in a note of interest. Now, this is where the first of a series of unusual quirks, unusual events began to take place. And the first of those was that my guy got back to me, my solicitor, my estate agent, my realtor, whatever you call them in your part of the world. He got back to me and he said, "You're the first and only note of interest on this house, on House B." Now that in itself is extremely unusual because I'm aware that there were at least 8 other people going to view that house that day when I was there. In fact, I had to cut my viewing short because there was another family coming in like immediately behind us. So there were 8 other people coming in on it, and that area in general is a very contested area. Everybody's trying to get into that area, so it's just a bit of a war, and it's just a bit of a melee trying to get in there normally. In fact, I went to see this other house, and it had been on the market for 1 or 2 hours. It had 18 people lined up to see it already. Absolute carnage trying to get into that area, and yet I was the only one that had noted interest. And then the second unusual thing was that my guy also said that this house is not owned by a private individual, it's owned by a company, and I've dealt with this company in the past and they're pretty much willing to accept whatever's on the ticket. In other words, you won't have to go in 2,000 above or 5,000 above, 10,000 above as you normally would if you were competing against other people and if it was a private individual. This company tend to be willing to accept whatever's on the ticket. Now this just seemed like an open goal. It just seemed like God had just opened up a door here and kept everybody else from competing, and then he said you can have it almost at a bargain price, because normally you've got to pay 10, 15, 20,000 above to get into that area, and I'd get it at ticket price. I just thought, okay, the natural light issue will get over that. I've got to go for this. It just seems like God has just opened up a door here and I have to go for it. I have to get involved. Now, at that point, my guy got back to me and he said, hang on a second. Why don't you take the weekend just to think about it and get back to me on the Monday morning? I think what he was thinking, I think what was going on in his mind was, because I bid on House A and then I'd retracted that offer a little while later, I thought he maybe thought I'm dealing with quite an impulsive person here and I don't want to go through that again. Maybe it's quite professionally embarrassing for him. So I think that's what was going on in his mind. He basically said, why don't you take until the Monday morning? And he also said it's late on the Friday afternoon by now, so even if you were to put in an offer, they wouldn't respond until the Monday anyway. So just take the Monday, take the weekend to think about it, come back to me on the Monday and see what you want to do. So I did. I thought about it over the weekend. I got back to him on the Monday morning and I was still completely set on the idea that, yeah, that God's opened up a door here and I have to go for it. Put in the offer at the list price, as he suggested. At that point, on the Monday morning, he got back to me and he said, I've got some bad news for you. Over the weekend, another party's got involved and they've actually made an offer. So what do you want to do about this? Now, I decided I couldn't therefore just offer the ticket price because I now had this competitor. I had to go a bit above. So I went a bit above. Oh, and also he said that you've only got 20 minutes to respond to this other party's offer because they're going to close the window at midday. And at that point, it was around 11:30, 11:40 in the morning. So he said, you've only got 20 minutes to get your offer in and then they're going to close the door. Now that in itself is quite an unusual quirk because normally if it's a private seller, they want to set quite a long closing date because then it allows as many people as possible to get involved and it drives the price up. So the fact that they were basically saying we're going to give you 20 minutes and get your offer in, that in itself is quite a weird thing. And the image that comes to my mind is actually the Israelites going over the Red Sea. The fact that God opened up the door for a little while so that they could get through and then he closed the Red Sea behind them so that nobody could follow. It felt a bit like that. It felt like God had basically opened up the window and said, get your offer in, and then I'm going to close it behind you immediately so that no other competition can get involved. So that was the third quirk. The fact that there wasn't more competition, even though one other party did, get involved because of my delay, because of my thinking about it. It was still only one other party. Now, at that point, normally what happens is you just sit back and you wait to hear whether you've got it or whether they've got it, whether you've offered more or whether they've offered more. And it's normally a yes or no answer that comes back, but that wasn't what happened. The fourth quirk now comes into play. The company got back to me and they said, would you be willing to wait until the 29th of April until your move-in date? Now, when I'd been doing the viewing, I'd been told it would be the 31st of March when I moved in. And so they were asking for an extra month, essentially. Now, I've got to be honest, at that point, I was thinking an extra month. I don't know if I can wait that long, even getting to the 31st of March. I mean, I work from home. I've got to be honest with you guys, I'm beginning to feel the pressure in terms of my lack of output. I feel like that I've been away for too long, and I'm just going to sort of let you into my mindset here, whether this is right or wrong. I'm just being honest with you here. I feel like that if I'm away for too long, that you guys will just kind of forget that this channel even exists. And then Patreon support might begin to drop off, and then the ministry might become financially unviable. If I'm not producing, if I'm not creating, it might become financially unviable. And this is not a good time to be financially unviable when I've just bought a house. So there's a lot of pressure beginning to build in terms of me staying creative and staying productive, which is also why the broken camera issue is just not a good thing right now. So that's what is going through my mind, and I just thought, I don't know if I can wait until the end of April. It seemed like God had opened up a door there, but now having to wait until the end of April, I got back to my guy and I said, I just don't know. But having thought about it a bit more and really deliberated, I just decided, you know what, if this is the difference between getting the house and not getting the house, then okay, I'll wait until the 29th of April. And if that's the deal breaker, then okay. And I'll try and figure out a plan later on as we go. Afterwards, they got back to me and they said that was the deal breaker. The other party, the other person that was interested, they haven't been willing to wait that long. You have. Congratulations, you've got the house. Now that leads to the fourth quirk, which I think what maybe happened, and I can't prove it because I'll never know. I think what happened was that I maybe offered a little bit less than the other party. I'm not sure if that's what happened, but I have a suspicion that I maybe wasn't even the top bid, and the only reason I got this house, a house that I maybe otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford, the only reason that I got it was because I was willing to be a little bit more flexible than the other party. So that's the fourth quirk. Normally it is just the highest bidder wins, but in this situation I may not have been the highest bidder, I'm not sure, but I still got the house because I was willing to be a bit more flexible. So, you know, the quirks are starting to build up now. So that was the verbal acceptance that I got from them. The 29th of April, congratulations, you've won the bid. You then have to wait for the written acceptance. Sorry if this is really getting tired and boring right now. You then have to wait for the written acceptance. And on the written acceptance, there was another condition attached. And the condition was that I had to wait until the 13th of May now to get in. And at that point, I really didn't know what to do at that point. I was in a real quandary, a real bind. I just thought, I can't wait until May. May is just far too long. And what is even going on here? Now, this is where it really gets complicated. The sellers of House B have bought a new build property. The company that is building the new build property has taken House B as part of a part exchange deal. So what they've essentially said is, we'll take that house off your hands and we'll market it for you and we'll sell it on your behalf so you don't have to worry about it. But what that means is that I can't move into House B until they've completed the new build property, because only when the new build property is completed can the owners of House B then move into it. So I'm waiting for that new build to be completed so that the owners can move into it so that I can then move into House B. I'm not sure I explained that very well at all, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at here. So that's the reason why I've kept on being delayed from the 31st of March to the 29th of April to the 13th of May. They're obviously encountering some kind of problem with their new build, some kind of supply issue, some kind of construction hold up, and that means that I can't get into House B until that house is done. So that's the situation, and I was really thinking to myself, I don't know, I can't wait that long. 13th of May, I'm really feeling the pressure here. I need to get going again. I just can't wait until May. And I was really, I didn't know what to do. And I couldn't decide if this was Satan trying to thwart and block and put obstacles in my way and delay and stop me making videos and stop me progressing. You know, there's been so many videos that I wanted to make over the past few months, but I've not been able to, and I've just felt so frustrated by that. Or, on the other hand, it could be God basically keeping me in the cyanide wilderness, the Sinai desert, longer than what I'd originally anticipated. He has basically set the promised land in front of me and said that you're going to get there someday, but I'm going to keep you in this wilderness a little bit longer than what you'd originally anticipated. I couldn't decide if it was God or if it was Satan, but all I knew was that I'm not sure if I can actually wait until the 13th of May in order to move into this house. Now, it was at that point that a couple of friends really stepped in and saved the day. Dawn and Sharon, they've been friends of the family for a long time. They're great people. Sharon buys all of the Fuel Project books. They have stepped in and absolutely saved the day in a way that I just can't describe. And they basically made up my mind and solved the issue for me. They have a cottage on their property, and this is another weird quirk, a quirk of timing, shall we say. They have a cottage on their property, and it's only just become available in the past week or so. Their daughter and her husband were living in the cottage until very, very recently because their own house was undergoing a refurb, so they'd moved into the cottage. Their refurb has only just been completed, which means that they're now able to move out, which means that the cottage is now empty again, which means that I can now move into it and use it as a studio space. Again, perfect timing, and that's really just solved everything. And that's what meant that I could go ahead with the house purchase. So that's now locked in, the 13th of May. And in the meantime, I now have a cottage to operate from. I now have an indoor space. So I'll be moving into the cottage. I'll be using the cottage from around the middle of February. So I've got another couple of weeks to wait because it needs to be cleaned and all of that kind of stuff. But as of February, the middle of February, I expect to have a studio space from which to work and make videos again. So good. Can't wait. And that will carry me up to the 13th of May. The prayer request now changes a little bit to, can you now pray that there's no more delays on the new build property? Because I don't get into House B until that new build is ready. So can you pray that there's no more delays, and even that the new build might even speed up, that the weather stays nice, that the supply chain issue might even go in the other direction and they might get stuff ahead of time. Whatever the problem is, can you pray that that house is done quicker so that I can then move into my space quicker? Now, I have been to see the cottage and I'm not sure whether I can do trench from there yet, but if not, I mean, if I can, then I will, but if not, then I'll just do other videos. I'll do topical videos. I might do an answer season. But the main thing is I've got an indoor space. I can do my testimony as well. I've not been able to do my testimony because of the camera issues. And then once I got this house, I had all of the mortgage application stuff to do. So more delays. But yeah. So that's the prayer request for now. That new build now, no more delays. Because if it turns into June, July, August, then it's obviously not ideal. That was a long story. I'm just looking at how long that was. 20 minutes, wow. Also, before I go, I just want to say thank you to people that have sent in 2-minute testimonies. I had a message last week from somebody saying, are you still accepting 2-minute testimonies? And I can say categorically that even if you're watching this video 10 years from now, that is if we're all still here and if the Lord hasn't returned, because you never know the way things are going, but even if you're watching this video 10 years from now and we're all still here and the Fuel Project still exists, then please do send them in, because this will always be a thing. It's always great to hear what God is doing in people's lives. So yes, send in your 2-minute testimonies and they will be greatly appreciated. Yeah. Have you ever noticed that when I get to a video, there's always something else I think I should be saying? I think I've even mentioned that in the past. I think that's everything for now, and it's been a long video anyway, so I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for watching if you've got this far, and if you haven't, I don't blame you one bit. So I'll be back with news of the cottage, maybe even before then. I don't know the way things are going. I'm doing my best and we'll get there. We're going to get there eventually. I just did a series, The Problem of Pain, and this is what life's all about. It's about overcoming these challenges and problems and, taking them on and being refined by them and turning problems into opportunities, as I talked about in the last video as well. So yeah, we're going to get there. The promised land's up ahead. It might take us a while to get there, but we're going to get there, and I can't wait. And the main thing to take away from this video is not frustrations and not delays. It's that God has been so good in answering your prayers and in answering my prayers. And he's opened up a house, a studio in a really miraculous way. and I feel so blessed, and I can't wait to get started on it. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.